Hello everyone, welcome to Conversations at Hub101.Earth. My name is Yuejia and I'm the founder and managing director of Hub101.Earth, a global open access platform for sharing solutions and ideas that is positive for climate, nature and people. And today I'm delighted to be speaking to our special guest, Thomas Hansen. Thomas, welcome.
Thank you.
Thomas, so for those who may not know you, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. Thomas Hansen. I'm Danish. I work for Eastern Pacific Shipping, which is a leading shipping company, ship-owning company based in Singapore and with offices in the UK and around the world. I've been in shipping for 30 years this year, and the industry has brought me across the world. So I started my career in Denmark, where I was born, and then moved to Singapore, to the US, to Shanghai, and London twice actually.
Hello.
So shipping appealed to me because it was international, and I could see a career spanning the continent, and it has lived up to the expectations.
Well, you're certainly the first person that got me really interested in shipping, and was patient enough to explain to me many aspects around shipping that I think many of us just take for granted and don't appreciate enough. And so you've been in this industry for a long time, over 30 years. How have you seen the industry evolve over that time in terms of, its impact on either climate or environmental issues? Has it changed a lot since you started?
It's changed dramatically. If you look back hundreds of years, shipping has gone through transformations after transformations. Going back to sailing ships, how it started. World trade was carried on wooden ships using the wind. Then we moved into steamships using coal, and then diesel engines were introduced. So it's always transformed. Now we are applying new technologies, new fuels again, but the acceleration of this transformation is probably the game changer here. There's a greater sense of urgency. The climate change is very much a global agenda point. So there's expectations from stakeholders of shipping to ensure that decarbonization is on the agenda. So shipping is going through a period of not only great geopolitical challenges to navigate, but then this whole decarbonization, where the demand is also to a large extent driven by geopolitics. So we've seen a lot, and I'm happy to kind of go into detail.
Yeah. So in fact, if we were to talk about why shipping is so important, I think the last time we chatted, you were talking about how much of our global trade relies on shipping.
80% of the global trade.
Which is incredible. I had no idea. 80% of our stuff that we buy from Amazon, or our sneakers, or all sorts of stuff.
You can almost sit in any room or any restaurant, any office, and look around and assume that 80% of what you see has been on board a ship.
Wow.
One way or the other. A lot of consumer goods in containers, energy in tankers, steel has been in a bulk carrier and then converted into another product. So some things have been on a ship multiple times before it reaches a consumer. And despite carrying 80% or more than 80%, it contributes only 3% to the global CO2 emissions. So it is still the cleanest means of transportation that exists. But nonetheless, the 3% is something which is being addressed, and each industry have to address their own emissions. And I believe shipping is taken very serious and has come a long way in doing so. We started, well, it's been ongoing, but in the last 10, 15 years, we have seen ships slowing down. That moving things a little bit slower takes a lot less energy, a lot less emissions. So when ships suddenly go slower, new ships get designed for slower speeds. So different hull lines, different engines, different technology can be applied, and you can reduce the CO2, and ships became larger as well. So the emission per product has seen a dramatic reduction over the last 15 years. More than 50%. If you look on many products, it's more than 50%.
Really? And I guess the biggest ongoing challenge and maybe opportunity in shipping is around its fuel usage, right? So maybe if you can talk us through, you mentioned, steamships. That was, I don't know, maybe
so
100 years ago.
You're right.
So what have we evolved from and to?
So for the past many decades, we've been dependent on fuel oil, on the bottom of the barrel, as we say. It's the last product that the refinery cannot refine.
Right? The bottom of the...
It's like mud with seashells, and it's very, very crude. But the engines have become so big and so capable of running on almost anything that they could happily run on this very dirty fuel. But as we progressed and the demand for cleaner fuel has increased and the cost of polluting is on the rise, the industry has begun to shift into cleaner fuels. And the predominant one, still a fossil fuel, is LNG.
What is LNG?
Liquid natural gas.
Liquid natural gas.
So you take a fossil gas and you cool it down to minus 160 degrees and it becomes liquid. And that means it fills a lot less and it's easier to bring and carry. So we have been familiar with LNG for many years in terms of transporting energy from one part of the world to the other. But it's only in the past decade that we've seen, or less than a decade, we've seen ships using LNG as fuel.
Yes.
So it's more complex. It's a lot more complex to handle. You're handling a fuel that's extremely cold. It's a different ball game. It's under pressure. It requires new technology, new training of the crew, and you have people for and against whenever you come with something new. And the good things about LNG as an option, it's available around the world. Infrastructure to bring it from terminals to the ships has expanded nicely. It reduces the CO2 by anything 15 to 25%, depending on the engine you have and how you use it. So it's meaningful, but it's not perfect.
Yeah.
In the company I work for, we took delivery of the first LNG dual fuel ship 5 years ago.
Okay.
And there were believers and supporters, but there were also people arguing that it's the wrong technology. A 15, 20, or 25% reduction is not enough.
It doesn't jump enough.
It doesn't move the needle enough.
Yeah.
But those same people are to a large extent still making the same argument. Whilst we have now had many ships running on LNG every day for the past 5 years. Mm-hmm. So we have saved large quantities of CO2 emission. Mm-hmm. So we used the Voltaire quote, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Mm-hmm. And we have applied that in almost everything we do now. So the company, on the back of the first LNG ships we ordered, have become very much led by decarbonization as our moral compass. So wherever we could, we have applied, be it small energy-saving devices on the ships, cleaner fuel, new ships, sell the old ships, or scrap the old ships, sail the ships slower, pick the better route, avoid the bad weather. There are many, many, many things you can do, many low-hanging fruits.
Right. And they all add up, right?
They all add up. So we feel you can only really be accountable for your emissions if you report them. So the past few years, we put them out in the public. We're not a public company. We're a private-owned company, but we publish our emissions, so people can see where we are.
Okay.
And we invest, I believe we are $3 to $4 billion now, purely invested into decarbonization technology.
Wow.
And the added benefit of this is hiring people to the company has become, I'll put it this way, EPS is a lot more attractive place to be in now for younger generation. They see a real sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
They enjoy being able to be a part of a company that's leading the decarbonization.
Yeah.
And as management, it's highly satisfying. We take risks, and it's not always right. We have put a carbon capture system on ships where basically you burn conventional fuel, but then from the exhaust, you spray a chemical that absorbs the CO2 out of the exhaust.
Wow.
And then you take this solution and you bring it ashore and you extract the CO2 out of it, and you either store it or you use it in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
It has not been a huge success. The technology works, but ships are moving too much, and the infrastructure to receive and process the CO2 is not mature enough. But technology is there. We have put suction sails on tankers where you plug... They're called suction. They're actually invented many years by Jacques Cousteau, I believe. It's like an oval structure where the wind passes, and then you have a ventilator that pushes out air. So instead of the air circulating or spinning behind, it actually creates a force that helps push the ship forward. And so we're testing that at the moment. So we really kind of open the full palette of different technologies, knowing they'll be hit and miss.
Right.
And the next stage will be the next generation fuel. So we've gone from fuel oil, and we are the only fuel we can see as true zero emission would be ammonia produced with renewable energy, so green ammonia.
Green ammonia, okay.
From where we were to get to there will take time. We see LNG as a transition fuel to get across.
Right.
There's also methanol being applied, which is also a transition fuel. Both of them contain CO2. You've got different grades. You've got bio LNG, which is produced of essentially gases from manure. So there are many different shades of LNG, shades of methanol that makes them greener and greener.
And shades of ammonia too.
And then ammonia, you got blue ammonia, which is produced on gas, but then you have again carbon capture, taking out the CO2 at the source, and then green ammonia. Green ammonia is a perfect fuel in some ways, but it's very toxic. Right. Very, very toxic.
I remember you saying.
So there are big risks that have to be managed for the crew on board the ships and in ports and terminals. You must always bear in mind that you've got a very toxic product, but it's for the lack of a better alternative. The next step will be nuclear. Small nuclear reactors or modular reactors on ships, which present a whole new set of challenges. But the industry, you've got members within the industry who are taking leads within these different avenues. It takes companies with capital.
Because it costs money to do all this.
Costs money to be part of this innovation. Takes courage. You must have
first mover risks. Right?
You know for sure when you're first mover, you won't have the perfect product. But the next one following you will have a product slightly better, and so forth. So when you build a ship with new technology, you have to be at peace with knowing that they will be known as the first generation ship within that technology. And for that, you need to be able to have the financial robustness to be able to carry that. So we are dipping our feet in ammonia. We are building ships that will sail on ammonia. And we are beginning on the back of that to see interest from other parts within shipping who are interested in joining us on that journey. The problem with these newer fuels, they're expensive.
Right.
Infrastructure is not there yet.
Right.
They take up more space, so you lose more cargo space.
Okay.
So it's inconvenient. It's inconvenient to decarbonize, but it's necessary. So we continue to try and push the boundaries, and the biggest obstacle at the end of the day is the economics.
Oh.
So to be compliant or to be beyond compliant costs more money, and is the end user, the consumer, willing to pay? Are the companies in between willing to pay? Because at the end of the day, it's economics. Companies exist to create a profit, to pay dividends to the shareholders. Mm-hmm. So do you choose, you may have a thick, glossy ESG report that sets out your targets and pledges, and you may meet them, but are you willing to go beyond that to accelerate the decarbonization if that means a smaller dividend check to your shareholders?
Yeah.
And sadly, again, that's not the case. Yeah. You will be as compliant as you need to be, but it's always focused on the bottom line and the dividend. So
the shareholders and the customers, right?
Well, to be fair, most of the consumers, maybe they have the best intentions, but when you go and buy a pair of sneakers, or you go and buy a pair of jeans or a sofa, how much does the total carbon footprint of that product, how clear is it? And how much are you able and willing to pay? And to a large extent, if there's not a big difference, which it won't be on a pair of sneakers, you probably would take it into consideration. But first and foremost, it's the brand, it's the color, it's the comfort that makes you decide what pair of sneakers to buy. Yeah. So it's very hard for the consumer to see through. Then you got in between, you got the brands, the producers. They would be able to move the needle more. But that's where have we invested in a NGO? I'm sorry, in a non-profit organization, or where does that line go? And I believe often management is remunerated on KPIs that sometimes have got an element of ESG, but in most cases is how much dividend the shareholders get, the return they get on their investment.
Yeah.
So there is space, and we've proven it's possible, and we are pushing ahead. And within the next 3 years, we will have ships on the water sailing on green ammonia with zero emission. And it's going to be very exciting, but it's going to be a tiny percentage, or not even, of the global transportation, of global shipping. It takes time. It's going to take a long time.
Yeah. But you guys are sort of I think leaders in pushing the boundary a bit and testing these ideas out. What would you say the role of regulation would be? That can that help to push everybody along a little bit faster?
It's the only way, probably.
Yeah.
If you're going to see real progress, is through legislation, for the reasons I mentioned before. Mm-hmm. To assume it happens by itself is unlikely. We see EU has been active in rolling out both their emission trading scheme to expand that to include shipping. As of last year, they rolled out Fuel EU, which is also a framework to make the polluters pay. We are seeing IMO having spent years on coming up with a framework, and EU took the step because IMO was not stepping up. So Fuel EU has been put in place. IMO is coming out with their own framework, being voted on in October.
IMO being the International Maritime Organization.
Correct. Right? Yeah. So part of the UN body. So we hope and that this will be ratified, and then we'll begin to have a pricing scheme for pollution across the globe and not just within EU waters. And then the cost of polluting can be increased, and it has to be meaningful levels in order to make the green fuels more on par with the dirty fuels. level the playing field.
Yeah.
And so the framework has been identified. There's probably never a perfect solution, but if we can get this rolled out and ratified and implemented, then we begin to see an avenue to really phase out the fossil fuels over the next decade or two. First, the fuel oil, the old ships, will our new ships that can run on newer fuels, and then make the next kind of leap ahead in terms of reducing emissions.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because I think shipping, as you were explaining to me, is not a big industry, but it actually has lots of different players in it and fairly diverse as well. So, as we said, getting everybody to move in a direction at a speed in which we need it, right? We do need to decarbonize and fairly quickly. And in the face of all these competing interests for profits, or there are lots of, other worldly problems springing up, it does seem quite difficult and overwhelming at times. But what do you think, is there anything that make him quite potentially optimistic about where we're headed in terms of the changes that we need to see?
We've seen more changes probably in the last 10 years than we've seen any time before in the past. So the change is accelerating. There's a willingness among some of the largest ship owners and operators in the world to make a real difference. Some go faster than the market can follow all the regulation, and they get a bit burned and they move back a bit, and then others step forward. But shipping, what has helped as well is shipping has gone through generally a very profitable period for the past 10 years. So if there's money, there's also more willingness and capacity to explore new technologies with the risk that comes with it. Whereas when everybody are scraping the bottom of the bank accounts, it's a lot harder to justify trying new technologies. So a combination of strong balance sheets, healthy agenda, and especially among the very large owners, we see a lot of progress. So running on green ammonia was unthinkable 10 years back, and now the first ships will be running on it very, very soon. And if the concept can be proven, if the safety of the ammonia and the handling of ammonia can be proven, we would expect this to be expanded quite considerably, and hope that another better product will come, another better solution will surface in the meantime. I think the industry is not giving up, but the next leap forward to nuclear we see be somewhat further. Maybe we can use nuclear to produce the e-fuels in a more efficient way than wind turbines and solar panels. But at the moment, that pricing is not quite there.
Yeah, still a bit way off to have your
purple ammonia
channel ferry run on nuclear.
Yes.
So Thomas, I know we were talking about the size of ships. They've really increased over time. You were saying, how big are they these days?
Well, in an effort to try and reduce the emission per ton of cargo you carry, the ships have become larger. The facilities, the environment, the infrastructure has allowed ever bigger ships. So when I joined shipping 30 years ago, the largest container ship was about 5,000 TEU, meaning they can load 5,000 containers on board.
Okay.
Today, the largest ships are about 25,000 TEU. So they become 400 meters long, 61 meter wide, and carry, I believe, 150,000 tons of cargo. So they have become massive floating, almost terminals, moving across the seas with about 17, 18 knots of speed.
We were talking about infrastructure, because you mentioned infrastructure around decarbonization is also part of the there are some challenges around decarbonizing the whole thing. Right? Can you explain a bit about what does it mean, ships and its infrastructure around it?
So the ships will go from A to B to C to D. Either they go new route every leg, or they are in a fixed service between a certain number of ports. So when the ship comes in to a port, it will be relying on infrastructure to take the cargo off the ship or putting cargo onto the ship.
The ports?
The ports, the terminals.
Oh, okay.
You will also, in the efforts to decarbonize, there's a great ambition to try and plug the ships into the grid, the electricity grid in the ports. And thereby you can switch off all the engines on the ship. And thereby the ship, whilst in port, is zero emission. One of the biggest problems with ships that's not spoken a lot about is not the CO2 emission, is the particular matter that comes through the exhaust when the ships are in port. So ports around the world which are close to large cities will have an issue with particular matter. So if you could switch off the engines, being the cruise ships or the container ships or the oil tankers, you can eliminate this whilst the ships are in port. And if you have 300, 400, 500, 600 ships in a port in a day, that's a big difference. But this requires the infrastructure to be able to have the socket where you can put your plug in when the ship comes in. And this is, we've seen California being the leader in rolling this out. We've seen China increasingly rolling it out. But by far majority of the ports we go, most of our ships are ready, but they come into port and we can't plug them in. The grid is not ready or the cabling is not ready. EU has got ambitions to rolling it out and make it mandatory in the European ports. But is it one plug per port, or is it every berth in every port? So infrastructure again does not always keep up with the technology side on the ships themselves.
Mm-hmm. So then looking into the future a bit, last 10 years has been fairly solid growth, as you said, and expanding into these different solutions. Where do you think the industry is going to be in the next 5, 10, 20 years' time? 5 years would take us to 2030 and beyond. I'm hoping for an optimistic answer.
Yeah, I think what's going on in the world is very, very difficult to come with any kind of qualified guess as to where the world is heading.
It's a bit uncertain.
But shipping has thrived on globalization. Globalization has to a large extent driven the global economy for the past many decades. And especially with China entering WTO, we saw the whole concept of outsourcing production and having production centers in one part of the world. And so you produce what you're good at. Mm-hmm. You in China, you consume European products, and in Europe you consume Chinese products, and we drink wine from Australia. And so it's become such a intertwined world we live in. If policies should change that, should we go more towards a deglobalization, protectionism, that will eventually affect shipping and means less shipping, which might not be a bad thing for the environment ultimately. So that could be maybe not great for shipping, but good for the environment. Might not be good for the global economy. Don't know. I'm not an economist, but
economists don't agree on anything. So.
True. So where it's going to be, either way, I believe that the drive towards decarbonization has only just started. We started with the sailing ships. We are putting sails back on ships now, and the sails are becoming more efficient. So maybe we've done the full circle, and combination of electrifying shipping through new battery technology and wind propulsion, maybe we can do without much fuel on the ships at all in the future, coupled with maybe less ships and less trade. We hope for more trade, but and trade changes as well. So There are large parts of the world which have a long way to come in terms of development. Africa, South America, big part of Asia, where the middle income families are still growing. So they would strive towards a lifestyle that we enjoy in other parts of the world. And that lifestyle today is very much bound in products from all over the world. It's globalization. So even if some trade reduces in some of the main trades, it may be compensated through trades to other parts of the world.
Yeah.
So
consumption levels will, in general, rise up around the world. So
it does.
I think we will always have some sort of trade. It's just, can we do it in a greener and more sustainable way?
I think we've proven we can do that. And I don't think anybody about to put the brakes on that. But with legislation coming online, it should accelerate the phasing out of the old ships and the production of the new ships and the new fuels.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Thomas, for speaking to me today. I mean, I always learn so much from you every time we speak, and shipping has turned out to be a lot more interesting than I ever realized. So thank you for coming in today and for fighting the good fight in getting decarbonization on the way. If you want to learn more about the various things that we talked about across shipping, you can check out our modules on hub101.earth. We created a number of ship-related modules on many of the topics that we discussed today. So check out those for an introduction. And we look forward to carrying on learning about decarbonization shipping through you.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure. Good luck.
Thank you.